Hello, everyone. Welcome to Location Weekly, your favorite podcast of the week. This is episode number 631. We're recording on July the 31st. Yes, the month is done. I feel like summer is already gone too fast, even though we have 1 month to go. Yeah, how are you, Brianna?
I'm good. I missed you guys last week, had a great vacation. Family and I went to Costa Rica, so it was a lot of fun. It was a beautiful place, very hot, but we had some fun adventures. So it was a nice time to disconnect, but back at it now and excited to be back here with you. How are you?
Well, that's good. It's nice. It's important to disconnect and have that time, right? So, yeah, I was out at a conference last week in Whistler near Vancouver, sponsorship marketing thing, and it was awesome. It was just a good group of people, a lot of good contacts, a lot of interest in our ground level platform. So yeah, I'm kind of pumped up for the week ahead. So.
Good.
All right, we've got 4 stories as usual, and I'll let Brianna kick it off.
All right. So our first story is a patent story, and I always love these. They're very interesting, just to read the words. And I always have an appreciation and kind of an awe for the people who write patent applications, because it's a little bit of science, but I know that the goal is to take as many liberties as you possibly can to get that patent to stretch. And here, this is a story from Apple. And so the US Patent and Trademark Office published this application that recently came in, and it is Apple is relating iPhone using indoor location tracking in order to find another iPhone inside of an indoor facility. So, imagine 2 friends are in the mall, maybe it's a mom and daughter or something, and you're going to divide up. And you want to be able to find them, at a later point in time. So the application, Apple's describing using infrared technology, which is kind of a little bit different for this indoor tracking. And they're claiming that it could be superior to GPS, right? So this location sharing could be improved over the current GPS use case, specifically indoors. Basically they're saying when the first person shares their location with the second person, and it could emit this infrared light, right? It's not something that would be visible on the outside, like the flashlight in essence, but it would be emitting that. And then the other person would hold their phone facing the direction of the other person, kind of, if you're on Google Maps or Apple Maps, you can kind of see that a direction that you're facing in order to know which way to go. I would imagine it's something similar to that. And then the infrared image sensor in the first person cell can be used to detect the second person's infrared light that's being emitted as well. So very interesting use case. There was some other floodlight illuminators and other things through facial recognition that was also included in this patent. But I think the key point here, or the main focus, is certainly this infrared technology being built in for the indoor sensing and finding one another. I think this is really valuable. I know that even with the Apple trackers, sometimes it's harder to see that really granular location once they're indoors somewhere. So I think something sometimes we'll put it in a suitcase or something, but there's kind of spottiness. So I like the idea that this is one, phone to phone, right? And 2, it can be used to track with another technology besides GPS. We're always talking about new and improved ways of tracking indoor and outdoor. And I think this is a great use case. And I'm also confident that this is going to be well received. It seems like infrared typically is identified with a lot of health and wellness. Whereas, a lot of times we're talking about, should we be using our phones and these electronic devices? What kind of signals are they emitting? And I think infrared is one of those things that you always associate positive things with. So that to me is interesting too. So I want to kind of dive into that a little bit more in the future. But what do you think?
I love it. I think, often these stories that we cover, they're interesting use cases or applications, but they're not necessarily, massive technology innovation. But I think in this case, I like it a lot because I think we know the challenges of GPS indoors. We've talked about that for years. It doesn't work super well for positioning on indoor navigation and things like that. There's been lots of other attempts at how to do this, but I like the the device to device, I guess, elements of this, and using infrared I think makes a ton of sense. I guess for me, like, to add to what you already said, I think I wonder, I would assume this isn't only limited to indoors. I would assume you could use this outdoors as well. It's just a matter of, sort of the beam from the infrared being able to be recognized by the other device. So I could see lots of applications for this. Yes, in a mall like you described, but what about, at a concert where you're there with friends, or a music festival, or, an amusement park, or, wherever, the zoo, where there's lots, like, large crowds, and, potentially, you get split up and you're trying to find, that other person. So, or even, hailing your Uber driver, trying to find where they are. I don't know. But I think there's a lot of applications for this. And I could see, this technology really taking off. And I think the other quick element on it for me is, if they, put this out there and they release this and they position it correctly, as, let's call it a safety application or something like that, I think the take up rates will be huge on this, right? Because there's huge utility here. And it's really about finding that other person that you want to find. So people are going to opt into this. So I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah. All right, on to our second story now. So a couple of big players in our industry, Vibenomics, who's part of Mood Media on in-store digital advertising, and Stringray Advertising, which is a provider of retail in-store audio and ad solutions, have agreed to combine their two networks together to create an in-store retail media network. And, we've talked a lot. We had a whole panel on this at our Retail Local conference back at Mall of America earlier this summer. And, this is one of the fastest growing, segments within our industry, this rise of retail media networks. You have massive retailers creating their own, you have, third-party networks being built, such as this. And, the combination of these two platforms into one media network is big. They say that it'll connect advertisers with approximately 800 million monthly shoppers through in-store digital audio advertising across more than 25,000 brick and mortar stores in the US. So, those are not small numbers. Those are, huge metrics and scale for people to go after, primarily in the retail sector. And both of these companies have been around for a long time. So this isn't, like two new startups coming together, to kind of scale. These are two major industry players working together. And just to kind of highlight the size and how quickly this is growing. So one study out there says that the US retail media spending is projected to increase from 31 billion. This is from 2021 to an anticipated 61 billion by the end of next year. 2024. So they're in a good space, they're in a good market, and I think a lot's going on here. And these guys also have international reach. So Mood Media operates in 140 countries. So I think there's a lot of potential.
Yeah, I think you are absolutely right that the retail media network, like universe ecosystem, is expanding and growing, but it's also interesting to see how some of these longtime players have been consolidating as well, right? So I think that there's strength in numbers, and there's strength in sort of like that diverse conglomeration of data sources. And so being able to use that, I think, opens up a lot of partnership opportunities when it comes to measurement, right? For sure, when it comes to measurement of all different media ad spends, not just digital out of home. But I think that there's like so many opportunities for a lot of these like companies to grow and expand and then apply to other digital spend, such as CTV, for example. And I think there's like a lot that's going to happen in this next probably, I would say like 6 to 18 months in that space. So agree with all of your sentiments there.
Yeah, and just one little sidebar to add on, Vibenomics also announced, I think it was the week before, a partnership with Placer AI, which gives them access to Placer's visitation data and audience insights. So, they're on the move right now, and through partnerships, through scaling, and combining networks, I think these guys are well positioned for good growth.
Yes, they are. Well, let's transition over to a story about the hot topic of many years, it seems, AI and generative AI. Wayfair, the home furnishings group that I'm sure you have shopped on, I have shopped on, they are a giant, and they're piloting a new program or product offering called Decorify. So this is using generative AI to create these shoppable and photorealistic images of products, right? So how it works is like I can go in, I can upload an image of my home. I'm actually testing it out right now because I just did like a whole new gallery wall in my living room. And so I can upload this of my space, and then I can prompt the system to, in essence, like redesign it. And then I can browse various offerings and styles, and I can actually shop what they maybe create and put together, which is really cool. There's, I can upload unlimited photos, I can delete them at any time, shop across various categories in the catalog, in the virtual rooms. And I know that we've talked about this similar offering in terms of like, does it fit in my space type of photo images, and like imagine it there. Maybe it's like a photo tour of your room type of features. And Wayfair's had several of these over the last years, but this is slightly different. And this is like more than just the AR overlays. So I think that, from like this being an advanced way to design your room, I love it. I think it's almost like using this catalog, but in sort of like this Pinterest fashion, right? And I can like reimagine things right there in real time. And so I really, really love this. And Wayfair has got a huge product offering. I mean, a lot of times we just think of Wayfair, but Wayfair includes Joss and Main, All Modern, Birch Lane, Perigold, which is like, they're more premier and premium type of offering, and then Wayfair Professional. So they generated $12 billion and net revenue over the past 12 months. Their annual year ended March 31st. So that's a huge amount. And I think they're continuing to grow, and they're based out of Boston. So it's interesting just to see, like, I feel like a lot of AI is coming out of Boston right now too, because I keep hearing more and more stories from like smaller companies there. But this is not a small company. And I think this is like a really interesting way that they're going to be able to have mass adoption of a product, and will help directly scale more sales. So I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's brilliant. I think it's a really cool use of generative AI technology. I played around with, ChatGPT and using Midjourney and things like that to create images. But like, this is taking it to a whole nother level. I mean, you're talking about essentially, it's like, as you described, you upload this image of your room, and then it's like, you have this, designer that's coming in and kind of creating for you, based on products and things that you can shop. So I think it's really cool. I think it's a very unique way to apply this kind of technology. And I think, we're going to see other, furniture companies and others like IKEA and others kind of jump into this space in a similar way, because I think it's way more than just that, AR overlay, that we've been playing with for a number of years. So I think this is really cool. All right, on to our final story now. So we're jumping into the digital signage space, and just a kind of a small announcement from our friends at Vistar Media. So Vistar is, one of the big media digital out of home companies out there, but they've launched this new feature in their platform called Nearest Location. And so what this is a way for advertisers who are on their platform, who have brick and mortar stores, to automatically add the information as to where their nearest store is on, like, layered on top of the ads that are being displayed on digital signage. So, picture you're, driving around or walking on the street and you walk by a digital sign on the side of a bus shelter or something like that. And it's an ad for McDonald's, or it's an ad for IKEA or whatever it is. Now on that sign, the advertiser has the ability to now point you as to where the nearest location is, so that you can go there. And obviously the goal is here to drive more traffic. So it's kind of just connecting the dots and kind of linking up what you're seeing, the advertising you're seeing on the screen, to where you can actually go and consume that product. So I think it's cool. I mean, maybe not cool, but I think it's useful. And it kind of highlights that immediate call to action. I don't know how, if it's measurable in that sense, but I think it's interesting.
I think this is interesting in the application where it could be potentially like food and beverage, like nearest location that you could purchase a specific meal or a specific cocktail. I think that's like a great application for something like this, as well as entertainment, So I think about, here in New York, like there's a lot of places you can get the same thing, perhaps, but being able to find it the nearest, especially like when you're, in the hustle and bustle, is always really helpful. So I can see that being a great application for this. And I think it's just simple. Like, honestly, it's a simple thing to do, to direct somebody right there without them having to search and having an extra step of like opening their phone and looking to see like where specifically they can find something. So I like it.
Yeah, well said. All right. Well, that's our show for this week. 4 stories. You've been listening and watching episode number 631 of Location Weekly. I also want to just highlight that for those of you who are fans of the LBMA and our Retail Loco conferences, excited to announce that we've struck a partnership with Simon Malls and Nobu Hotels. And we're bringing Retail Loco back to Atlanta November 1st and 2nd at Phipps Plaza and at the Nobu Hotel there. So, you can contact us if you want to get involved, if you want to speak, sponsor, attend, just go to thelbma.org and click on events and you'll find information there. So thanks, everybody. Have a great week.
Bye.